What comes to your mind when I say the Portland Trailblazers? For people who haven't watched basketball for a long time, Damian Lillard should come to mind. For fans who know their history and have watched the sport for a while, you may think of the Portland Jailblazers led by Zach Randolph. What probably doesn't come to mind for you is a franchise with the third most playoff appearances of all time. No, that's right. They have the third most playoff appearances, only behind the LA Lakers and San Antonio Spurs, while at the same time only having one championship to their name, which is measly compared to the Lakers and the Spurs' success. No matter what era we talk about, the Portland Trailblazers story has been one of mediocrity. They've remained relevant, but not quite competing for a title. It hasn't been a lack of bad management, but more so just running into bad luck and good competition. Every time they've had a good thing going for them, it seemed to stop for one reason or another. I don't know why, but I think the Portland Trailblazers have had some of the worst luck in the league. Before we start off by having a look at the franchise's promising start, I just wanted to remind you to leave a like on the video if you enjoy it. My channel is super small, so liking the video really helps out the algorithm so that the video reaches more new people who like basketball just as much as you. If you want to help me out one step further, you can subscribe to the channel because I post high quality NBA related content, so if that sounds interesting to you, please subscribe. Leave a comment letting me know what you think of the video and if you have any other ideas you'd like to see me create. Thank you so much for all the recent support. You guys are the absolute best and I love creating videos for y'all. Now let's have a blast to the past, the 1970s. The Trailblazers came into the league as an expansion team along with the Buffalo Braves and Cleveland Cavaliers. Like most expansion teams, they sucked the first few years. Then came the magical year of 1977. The Blazers had their first winning season, and to top it off, they won an NBA championship. They were led by their first overall pick from the 1974 draft and season MVP, Bill Walton, who averaged 18.5 points, 14.5 rebounds, and an incredible 3.2 blocks a game. These insane stats were only complemented by a finals run for the ages as he averaged 18.5 points, 19 rebounds, 5.2 assists, and 3.7 blocks. It looked like the Blazers had a superstar on their hands. At only 24 years of age, Bill Walton and the team's future looked very bright. Things would take a turn for the worse very quickly, as the next season they would get eliminated in the second round and Walton would miss 34 games due to injury. The next season he would miss entirely due to a foot injury, and the Blazers decided to let him go. They traded him away for some modest players and a pick, losing what could have been one of the greatest big men of all time. In the post-Bill Walton era of the 1980s, the Trailblazers once again saw mediocre success, having a losing season only once and only missing the playoffs once as well. During this decade, they also drafted some legendary players, including 3 Hall of Famers and 2 All-Stars. In 1983, Clyde Drexler was selected with the 14th overall pick. 2 seasons later, they would pick up Terry Porter with the 24th overall pick. In the 1986 draft, Portland would pick up both Arvydas Sabonis and Drazen Petrovic with the 24th and 60th pick respectively. And in the 1989 draft, Portland would pick up Cliff Robinson with the 36th overall pick. With a team like this, you'd expect a near dynasty on your hands, but it wasn't the case. Clyde was a remarkable player, but he was never able to carry a team. Terry Porter was a good player, but just never made it work. Sabonis was picked up in 1986, but didn't suit up until 1995, as he spent 9 years overseas in Lithuania and Spain. The reasoning behind his stay in Europe? Oh, nothing too serious. He just wasn't allowed to go play in the USA because the USSR didn't want him to. When the USSR collapsed, he was finally able to go and play. It really took an entire socialist state to collapse for this man to play basketball. Petrovic was one of the best shooters in the league, but never got the minutes behind all-star guard Clyde Drexler. Robinson was a great bench piece for them, but he was before his time. Now if you know your NBA history, you know I'm missing one significant player. That was Portland Trailblazers' 2nd overall pick in the 1984 draft, Sam Bowie, the man most known for being picked before Michael Jordan. But I'm here to tell you it wasn't entirely the Blazers' fault. The year prior to selecting Sam Bowie over Jordan, the Blazers had picked up a slashing shooting guard in Clyde Drexler, so drafting Jordan on draft night didn't entirely make sense. Even Jordan knew he wasn't going to Portland, as he mentioned it in the Last Dance documentary. What the Blazers needed was a center, and coming off a Final Four performance where he outperformed Patrick Ewing, Bowie was looking like that guy. Unfortunately, he was plagued with injuries, and from the 1984 to 1988 season, he only played 119 out of the possible 328 games. Was Bowie the wrong choice? With the benefit of hindsight, we know that to be true, but it wasn't a terrible pick at the time. Again, throughout the 90s, the Blazers didn't miss the playoffs. They also made it to the finals twice, but came up short both times. Their first appearance was in the 1990 season versus the Bad Boy Pistons. They weren't much competition though, because after 5 games the Pistons completed a gentleman's sweep. Fast forward 2 more years and the Blazers are back again in the finals, but this time facing off against Michael Jordan. While the Blazers fought valiantly, they lost in 6 games as no one was able to stop Michael Jordan from scoring 30 a night. One bad thing came after another, including Clyde Drexler being traded away and winning a ring immediately, drafting Jermaine O'Neal and sitting him on the bench for most of his time with them. The Blazers recorded a song, Bust a Bucket, which yes, is as bad as the other 2 I mentioned before it. This all happened while the Blazers were good enough to make the playoffs, but never good enough to win it all. They were stuck in a limbo as they never got a high enough pick to turn the team around, but were also never able to compete in the West. They decided to blow it all up and let Terry Porter, Buck Williams, and Cliff Robinson all walk in 3 consecutive seasons. The 90s was a rough time as they switched front office personnel a lot, which led to the infamous 2000s team. The Portland Jailblazers. The team during this era was quite good talent-wise, but was stricken with off-the-court issues. Many players got busted on substance abuse issues and other related things. Shawn Kemp was caught in April of 2001, Zach Randolph in May of 2002, Rasheed Wallace, Ruben Patterson, and Damon Stoudemire all in November of 2002, and Quintel Woods in February of 2003. Thankfully, many of these players were able to enter into rehab and overcome their addictions, but at the time there was a lot of chemistry issues. The management was largely criticized for adding stars onto their team with no sense of team chemistry at all. Zach Randolph even punched teammate Ruben Patterson during a practice in 2003, breaking his eye socket. The 2004 season was also the first time the Blazers missed the playoffs since 1983, ending a 21-year streak. Thankfully, they were able to rebuild and recover quite quickly. In the later half of the 2000s, the Blazers were bad. But with bad comes good picks, and the Blazers actually picked quite well for themselves. In the 2006 draft, they traded for the 2nd overall pick Lamarcus Aldridge, as well as the 6th pick Brandon Roy. In the year after, they picked up Greg Oden with the 1st overall pick. Lamarcus was originally drafted by the Bulls, but was traded on draft night for Tyrese Thomas and Victor Kriepa. Brandon Roy was originally going to the Timberwolves, but was traded for Randy Foye. Those two, along with Greg Oden, looked to be the next great trio in the league. In their 2nd full year together, they were an impressive 54-28. Brandon Roy, at the age of 23, almost averaged 20 points, 6 assists, and 5 rebounds, and Lamarcus Aldridge, who was also 23, averaged 18 points, 7.5 rebounds, and 2 assists. To top things off, Greg Oden was only 21 years old, averaging 9 points, 7 rebounds, and a block on amazing efficiency. When all 3 were playing together, Portland went 51-10, and that's a sign for a dynasty. Unfortunately, the injury bug hit the Blazers hard. Oden missed 61 games the next year and then missed the next 3 seasons due to knee problems. Roy missed 17 games in 2010 and suffered a career-ending injury only 3 years later. What was once a promising trio of young players turned into one of the biggest what-ifs in NBA history. Now before we have a look at the 2010s, I just wanted to remind you to leave a like on this video because if you made it this far it probably means you're enjoying it. Subscribe to get notified whenever I post a video, which is daily, and let me know what you think of the video in the comment section down below, and if you have any other ideas you'd like to see me create. Thank you so much as always, and now let's wrap things up. The 2010s wasn't much different for the Blazers. They've had good players, they've made the playoffs, but they never went deep enough, and that led to them not having good enough picks to improve the team. Portland missed the playoffs twice in the 2010s, and both were prior to the Damian Lillard era. Portland drafted very well, grabbing both CJ McCollum and Damian Lillard to fill out their backcourt. They even made the Western Conference Finals in 2019, but as of 2022, they don't look to be competing with the powerhouses of the West. The cycle of mediocrity continue, and I'm not sure Portland fans should hold their breath for a miracle. So just to recap, Portland had a ton of injury-plagued careers. Bill Walton, Sam Bowie, Brandon Roy, and Greg Oden to be exact. They missed out on Hall of Fame players whose primes were not spent on the team, Arvydas Sabonis, Drazen Petrovic, and Jermaine O'Neal. And they had a ton of off-the-court issues with Shawn Kemp, Zach Randolph, Rasheed Wallace, Damon Stoudemire, Ruben Patterson, and Quintel Woods. Having 1 or 2 promising players in your team's history who've struggled with injuries is common. 4 is a lot. Missing the prime of some Hall of Famers does occur every once in a while, but twice in the same draft? Having some players struggle with off-the-court issues is common in sports, but 6 all on the same team is a lot. The Blazers might be one of the most cursed teams in the league, or one of the unluckiest. I don't know where their curse is from, but at the very least, the Blazers' history is a tragedy. And that does it. If you made it this far, thank you. If you want to support my small channel to help it grow, you can do so by hitting the like button so that it helps out the algorithm. If you want to take it one step further, you can subscribe so that you get notified whenever I post a video. Leave a comment letting me know what you think, and as always, until next time, cheers.